Greetings. Did you enjoy my last reading about the elves of Warhammer World? Noise. This time I will be talking about the Beastmen. Sometimes known as the Beastkin, the Cloven Ones, the Horned Ones, the Beast of Chaos, or even the Children of Chaos, is a race of savage mutant humanoids that bear various traits of bestial appearance, such as cloven hooves, muscular human bodies, horned bestial heads and a malign primitive intelligence. Proud of their origins, it is said that they are the descendants of ancient humans corrupted and twisted by the influence of chaos at the dawn of chaoses coming into the world. The origins of the Beastmen are tied closely with the origins of mankind itself. Indeed, long before the collapse of the Old One's polar gates, there was no such thing as Beastmen. Mankind was still a fledgling and unknown race, confined to lands far from the reaches of the ancient civilizations of the dwarfs and elves. The Old Ones had watched like a guardian upon the fledgling world they have reshaped, staving off the spawning of undesirable races and seeding the world with the first true forms of life. However, the Great Catastrophe event that occurred during the collapse of the Polar Gate cuts the world off from their influence, and the subsequent incursion of chaos into this world has since cursed it to inevitable damnation. The Great Catastrophe brought doom to the world. As the fabric of reality was torn asunder, from the skies came pulsing comets of warpstone, contrails of unlight, flaring in their wake as they plummeted toward the untamed forests. The lands were pounded repeatedly, as huge chunks of warpstone, a solidified chaos energy, thrown from the collapsing dimensional gates, crashed into the world like meteors, felling endless tracts of forest and burying themselves inside massive craters of scorched earth. With each impact, the land was infected further by the raw stuff of chaos. Its insidious taint worked outward into the fertile soil, suckled upon by the roots of ancient trees and seeping into the air breathed by the nomads and the beasts that populated the lands. As chaos infected the lands like a malign cancer, the ancient forests of the world began to stir, writhing with corrupted energies. The primitives of the land and the beast of the forest had merged into beings of both man and beast. In time, the offspring of these creatures spread throughout the wilderness of the world, gathering in the dark places, forming a society, albeit savage and primitive one. In their most primal core, the Beastmen are indeed a fusion of man and beast, a transformation that came about when the gates of heaven collapsed, and the influence of chaos smothered the world in its grip. The term Beastman is often used to describe a whole spectrum of different animal-like beings of varying appearance and distinction. To an extent, a Beastman is also classified as a mutant. However, there are no absolute dividing line between human and mutant, or between mutant and Beastman, or between Beastman and demon. Rather, there is simply a spectrum of taint. Nevertheless, all Beastmen are seen to be spiteful and mean-spirited creatures that revel in bloodshed and chaos and loathe order and the very concept of civilization in all its forms. Beastmen are not believed to be creatures of nature, for there is nothing natural about their existence. The herdstons and rituals of the Beastmen corrupt the very essence of nature itself. It is for this reason Beastmen are especially loathed by the Wood Elves of Athel Loren, with whom the Beastmen have been fighting a grueling secret war for centuries. A typical Beastman generally has a certain appearance that is consistent with most other Beastman breeds. Most Beastmen are known for having the head and legs of various animals, with the chest and arms resembling that of a human. They are capable of walking in an upright posture, with some known to walk on all fours. Their matted hair is usually encrusted with blood and dung, which upon lids ticks and colonies of fleas, that keep the Beastman in a constant state of agitation. Beastman is also naturally strong and well-muscled. As a product of chaos mutation, Beastmen are typically born in one of three ways. The first way is generally by simple reproduction between a male Beastman and the more docile and least numerous female variants. The second way is generally the most well-known. In this case, a child of two human parents might be born with obvious signs of mutation. As the law dictates, the child must then be given to authorities to be properly extinguished. But most parents are incapable of doing such a thing, and so to both expunge the child from their lives as well as the parent's sin, they would leave the child alone in the forest to die by the elements. This event, however, almost never kills the child, for within hours of being left in this lonely state, the crying of the child will signal other Beastmen to its location, who then take the child as their own. The third way is very rare, and occurred when a human is transformed into a beastman at some point later in their life. Such a situation is a painful process which results in the human gaining many bestial traits. This, however, almost always put the transformed human into being neither fully beastman nor fully human, commonly known as turnskins, and are never truly accepted to either human or beastman societies. The beastmen live by the base laws of nature, a violent hierarchy based upon the overall prowess of a beastman as well as what kind of breed the particular beastman is. Those that possess exceptional strength and bear the greatest blessings of the dark gods, such as magnificent curling horns, occupy the higher tiers of their tribes. Those beastmen that possess small horns or none at all, such as the lowly breeds of ungors and brays, are always below those that do, such as the gors and minotaurs. Hence, each warherd is led by the strongest and most bestial amongst their numbers, who are known collectively as beast lords. These primitive chieftains occupy the apex of tribal authority. It is his absolute right to rule as he pleases, provided that he has the strength to back it up. These beast lords has to continually fight off challenges from his many jealous and power-hungry subordinates to maintain his position. He makes a totem from the pelts of those he has defeated to prove his right to rule, making his personal banner a gory record of his deeds and conquests. One day though, a challenger will come who is stronger, younger and far more vigorous than the current incumbent, and then the chieftain's own hide will hang bleeding in the wind from the challenger's totem. From here, this vicious cycle is repeated again and again until time immemorial. All beastmen worship the gods of chaos as the one true divine power of the world. They are the product of their corruption and as such, wholly dedicated to the spreading of their will to all lands of the old world and beyond. Ordinarily, the ruinous powers pay little heed to the deeds of the beastmen, knowing that the children of chaos will enact their will, regardless of any gifts or rewards offered. Sometimes, however, when a beastman commits such acts of savagery and bloodshed that the attentions of the dark gods were piqued, and such, bless the beastman powers beyond any beast lords, and be freed of constraints imposed by these malign gods upon their thoughts and actions, in so doing, serve chaos with every shred of their being. The beastmen build no cities, for order and construction are anathema to them. They roam far and wide, following the scent of fresh meat and hunting down whatever wanders into the ancient hunting grounds that the beastmen patrol. All the lands of the old world are regarded as these very same hunting grounds. It has always been so, since the coming of chaos in a distant and legendary age. The beastmen, however, will build crude, temporary campsites from which to raid the surrounding areas, usually picking dark and dense parts of the forest that are near to trade routes or villages. The beastmen will only stay in this one place for a short space of time before moving on to find another suitable campsite so as to avoid detection and holy retribution. Beastmen warbands will often roam for 100 miles before setting up camp again, battling other beastmen for the best raiding grounds. Creatures of violence and destruction, the beastman race are as unreasoning and deadly as the hurricane that tears apart villages, or the plague that ravages the lands, or the blight that kills the harvest. And yet the beastmen are far worse, for they have little to do with the natural order of things. The carnage and despair they spread across the land is not part of the eternal cycle of life and death, but a malevolent and deliberate attempt to tear down and despoil everything of beauty, peace or sanctity, replacing it with filth and ruin. Even when gathered in their torrid encampments, the beastmen can be seen brawling, shouting, rutting, drinking or filling their hairy bellies with raw flesh, for they are vital and virile creatures that are never truly still. Thank you. That concludes this time reading. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.